Hello YouTube! Haven't made a video wearing these in a while. I'm tired. My eyes are tired. I'm gonna wear my glasses today, so sorry for the constant reflection from my window, but hi, I need to see. It is the end of the month, which means that today is a Book of the Month video, and for this month I have been reading Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan. If you're new here, hello, my name is Tori Cyclic. I make new videos every Sunday for Cyclic Sunday with other videos throughout the week. If you like what you see, like this video down below and subscribe while you're down there as well. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram in the description at tss6295. Now let's get into the video. So Will Grayson is a very well-loved book in my catalog of books that I own because I've read this book 9 to 12 times in my life because it's John Green for one, it's David Levithan as well. I've grown to really like a lot of his stuff too, but also I just absolutely love this book. So this is a very, very well-loved one. It's one of my favorites. It's probably my favorite book, honestly. And like I've talked about before, when I was younger, and still kind of do now, I like to write a lot in my books of lines I like and highlighting things and things like that. I used to fold down the pages of everything too. On this, there's maybe out of the, how many pages in this book? Just over 300 pages of Will Grayson. There's maybe 20 of them that aren't folded down. So yeah, that's come from loving this book so much and reading it so many times and just wanting to keep going with it and keep enjoying it and finding something new that I like about it every time that I write a little box or underline and then fold the page down. Also along with this, if there's ever a movie version made of Will Grayson, I really want to play Jane. I've wanted to be Jane in the movie version of Will Grayson since I read this book for the first time when I was in high school. So that's a big thing of how much I love this book. Will Grayson is written by two authors, John Green and David Levithan. What this means is that they each took one version of Will Grayson, because Will Grayson is two people in this book, and wrote their own stories of him. This is kind of like how Eve of Man by Tom and Giovanna Fletcher was written, which I also did for a Book of the Month. I will link it down below. In Eve of Man, they had their male and female protagonists that were written from each person's perspective, and that's kind of the similar way that it is here with Will Grayson. I'm going to read you the little blurb on the back of this book so you kind of know a little bit more about what this is about. Will Grayson meet Will Grayson. One cold night in a most unlikely corner of Chicago, two strangers cross paths. Two teens with the same name running in two very different circles suddenly find their lives going in new and unexpected directions, culminating in heroic turns of heart and the most epic musical ever to grace the high school stage. So yeah, that's the basic gist of it. It's two guys named Will Grayson who meet each other in Chicago at a very funny location, which I'm not going to ruin if you want to read this book because it honestly makes me laugh every time I read it and I know it's coming up. They live two very different lives in Chicago, and it's really interesting the way that it's written to intersect their two worlds together. The way that the Will Graysons are separated is that there's uppercase Will and lowercase Will. Uppercase Will is written by John Green and lowercase Will is written by David Levithan. There's so many things about this book, specifically about John Green sections, because I'm a very huge John Green fan and have been forever, that are just perfect writing to me, specifically perfect John Green writing. So reading here from uppercase Will's section. And everything goes perfectly on the way there. Traffic's not too bad on Sheridan and I'm cornering the car like it's the Indy 500 and we're listening to my favorite Neutral Milk Hotel song, Holland 1945. And then onto Lakeshore Drive. The waves of Lake Michigan crashing against the boulders by the drive, the windows cracked to get the car to defrost, the dirty, bracing, cold air rushing in, and I love the way Chicago smells. Chicago is brackish lake water and soot and sweat and grease, and I love it. And I love this song, and Tiny saying, I love this song. He's got the visor down so he can mess up his hair a little more expertly. That gets me to thinking that Neutral Milk Hotel is going to see me just as surely as I'm going to see them, so I give myself a once-over in the rear view. My face seems too square and my eyes too big, like I'm perpetually surprised, but there's nothing wrong with me that I can fix. That section in particular just perfectly encapsulates to me listening to my favorite band while sitting in a car and driving with a really good friend, and it just reminds me of all these things that I felt in high school that I was this is what's shown in the movies that I really want to have in my life. And then in college I kind of got, when I went on road trips with Sean, that I was this is what it feels like the real thing that I read about in Will Grayson, this is how it actually feels. And when I reread this section again while reading it this month, I was like, oh my god, I forgot how much I love that feeling, and it just made me really happy. The two Will Graysons are very, very different in the way that they are. Uppercase Will, which is John Green's Will Grayson, is much more about sticking to the sidelines, doing his thing as a teenager, but having his group of friends and wanting to fit in, whereas the lowercase Will, which is David Levithan's Will, has a lot more of the doom and gloom of teenage life, and that's the kind of things that I totally related to when I was growing up, and to try and understand that about myself and who I was, and finding the differences in both of them and the similarities in both of them that I saw in myself, and reading this book again, because I haven't read this book since high school, and reading it again this month, I was like, oh my god, I can totally see all of these things that I saw in myself growing up that I loved about this book that made me relate to it so much. All the characters throughout this book are so complex and really, really well fleshed out, which I really, really appreciate as a reader. Specifically Tiny Cooper, who is just the most fabulous character in this book, and he's a big gay football player who's also a musical guy, and he just says so many funny things in the book that I'm like, I wish I had a friend like this growing up. There's also a huge part in this book about social media and catfishing, which is a pretty big deal nowadays, and I think when it was written in like mid 2000s, catfishing was kind of a thing that was coming about, but wasn't really like defined as catfishing. So going back and reading it again, I forgot about that part of the book and how important it was to it, and it made me really think about the impact that like social media has on teens and their emotions and things like that, along with like what it does to personal and interpersonal relationships. There's a lot of things in Will Grayson that remind me of like the perfect teen movie, but also like a very relatable teen movie that I can't think of a specific one at the current moment, but probably the closest one to it would be Perks of Being a Wallflower. Because it just feels good when you watch that movie and you see these kids doing their thing in their life and dealing with these real, actual struggles. And then reading this book, along with also reading Perks of Being a Wallflower as well, they have like real teens dealing with real struggles and things that you can relate to. So that is all I have for you guys today for this month's book of the month. If you have read Will Grayson and love it as much as I do, or if you've just read it in general, let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. It's really one of my favorite books of all time. Like, I literally could pick this up whenever. It's like how I could watch The Office forever and like know what's happening and still enjoy it. Will Grayson is that kind of book for me. So like, if you have a book that's like that for you, let me know what it is in the comments as well, because I'd love to read more of people's like favorite books too. As per usual, if there's anything you would like to see here on my channel in particular, let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, DFTBA, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!